What's up everyone, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and you're watching my series Ranked. Ranked is where I take a band or an artist and I rank from worst to best, of course in my own personal opinion, every single studio album from the best of the best to the worst of the worst. We talk about everything in between as well. And today up on the chopping block we have Panic at the Disco. Yes, the exclamation point is back and has been for a decade. Where have you been? After you get done watching this episode, make sure you visit the link in the description down below to catch up on all of the other episodes of Ranked that I have already done. And you can also catch my Panic at the Disco playlist where I've talked about many of their albums in review form and have also done a top 10 and an underrated songs video on them. Without further ado, let's start ranking the Panic albums. Please drop a like on the video to show support for this series. You guys have been showing it love the past few episodes in particular, so thank you so much for that. This is the most time-consuming series that I make. If you would like to contribute on Patreon so the videos can keep coming, then visit the top link down below. To say that Pray for the Wicked is an objectively horrible album wouldn't be accurate, but by Panic at the Disco standards, it's pretty bad. The band ship has sailed, and now it's more of a quote-unquote Brendan and Friends solo project that still happens to carry a very famous band name. Pray for the Wicked came at a time in Yuri's life when he really wasn't even considering an album, but just so happened to show some early demos to someone at the record label. With Panic at the Disco being the cash cow they are, fueled by Ramen pushed for a full length, and now here we are. Deep sigh. Yuri starred in the Broadway production Kinky Boots in 2017, using that experience as the basis for the sound of this record. While the lyrics are more general and celebratory, the music is undeniably influenced by theater, with large brass and horn sections accompanying every single song on the record with the exception of Dyin' in LA. It really shouldn't come as a surprise that a watered down attempt at this sound gets really old really fast. High Hopes is a spot-on banger, however, sprinkling some sort of magic pixie dust on the listener which makes them want to play it over and over again. Saturday Night has some of that staying power that's oh so lacking on most of the record too, with that and The Overpass being the only other tracks worth keeping around after a few listens through the album. It's not the worst thing ever, but I certainly hope they don't continue down this road any further.
Baby, we built this house on memories. Take my picture now, shake it till you see it, and when your fantasies become your legacy.
Death of a Bachelor was a turning point for Panic in really every way imaginable. Writer and bassist Dallin Weeks was once again demoted to touring member status after the Two Weird tour cycle, and the sonic directions started to sound more like a playlist than a real body of work. I might have my gripes with this era, but at the end of the day, I have to admit, Death of a Bachelor grew on me. There was still some clever writing at play here, and although the production and musicianship often sounds a bit muddled or flat, there's some definite gems on the album that are pretty easy to find. Yuri started to tap the buzz of partying in Los Angeles for song ideas, and it made for some pretty cool dance-worthy tracks like LA Devotee and Victorious. The Rock Lobster sample on the blazing Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time is delightfully fun, and House of Memories is forgotten about way too often, ironically enough. Emperor's New Clothes is a spooky firecracker perfect for Halloween, and the title track is a smile-inducing ode to a new chapter of life. And of course, Frank Sinatra. Crazy Equals Genius annoys the ever-living fuck out of me on the other side of the spectrum, with some of the other hits also pinching my nerves. The biggest problem with this album isn't a huge one, but it's an issue of depth. Sometimes both the lyrics and the music feels void of any true passion or commitment, sailing in the smooth waters that wouldn't dare shake up any real waves. I thought Panic swore to shake it up, although it seems in recent years it's just been easier to listen as the dollars keep rolling in.
Something, call it desperation. Another dollar, another day. And if she had the proper words to say, she would tell him, but she'd have nothing left to sell him.
A really tough decision came my way when I decided to rank the Panic albums, with the biggest question mark going to 2011's Vices and Virtues. I lamented if I should rank it higher because I love the bonus tracks so dearly, and then leaned the scale back the other way because I don't review deluxe editions, so why would I factor that into where the standard album lands in the ranked episode? Long mental debate cut short, I placed Vices at number 4 because as a standard 10-song album, it has a few gaping holes that let the light in some very odd ways. I do have a soft spot for this time in the band though, with Yuri and drummer Spencer Smith surviving the departure of 2 key bandmates and soldiering on to see this thing through. You can tell that Yuri really found his footing with the lyrical content not only on the lead-up non-album song New Perspective, but with Vices as a whole. The general feeling I get with this album is good, lending itself as a friend that's easy to come back to here and there. The calendar is a wholesome bop, Hurricane storms through just like the title would imply, and Sarah Smiles is a loving ode to Yuri's wife that has one of the most pleasant instrumentals on the album. It makes me happy that a quote-unquote lost track from the Cabin album Nearly Witches made it on here as the closing moment, being a roaring powerhouse swell with some absolutely beautiful lyrics courtesy of both Yuri and former member Ryan Ross. To contrast those positives, I find Trade Mistakes to be kinda dull and underwritten, and the Smurfs in credits song Ready to Go almost unbearable. Naturally, that's one of the only songs that they still perform from this era. Lucky me. Overall though, this was an album that needed to be made because it kept Panic alive, even if it is their least commercially successful project to date. Lukewarm hesitations fluttered about when I first reviewed Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die back in 2013. I dialed back my unenthusiastic response over the years, eventually seeing this outing as an overlooked gold mine largely thanks to the contributions of short-lived full-time member Dallin Weeks. To say that this man's songwriting is underrated is an understatement. Give something like Far Too Young to Die a listen and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That now stands alone as my personal favorite from the band, a song that I play quite frequently because of its somewhat experimental music and its top-tier lyrics that sell a true sense of urgency. This Is Gospel is absolute perfection as well, remaining to this day as one of Panic's most bombastic aces up the sleeve. I'm definitely a believer in the song's colorful and casual affair. Hell, I'd even go out on a limb and say some of the more simplistic moments Vegas Lights and Nicotine are pretty effective too. Prepare to come directly for my throat on this next hot take, but Girls, Girls, Boys just does nothing, even in the realm of anything interesting. I do have a lot of love for Too Weird in the end of all things, that is, and I suggest giving it another chance if you personally didn't care for it or rank it low on the totem pole of Panic.
Can't take the kid from the fight, take the fight from the kid. Sit back, relax again. Can't take the kid from the fight, take the fight from the kid. Just sit back, just sit back.
Imagine getting 2 golden tickets for an event you're dying to go to, but then being told you can only use one at the premiere spot. That's the top 2 Panic album scenario for yours truly. The choice has been made though, and at the crest of the wave is A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. A game-changing record for music in the mid-2000s, Fever stole hearts across the world with a blend of dapper showmanship, baroque instrumentals, and an enchanting swirl of genres. Guitarist and vocalist Ryan Ross was at the heart of the album's Chuck Palahniuk-inspired lyrics, penning songs about his father, relationship turmoil, and a lot of other crazy stuff. Lead singer Brendan Urie became the household name though. Somehow, I feel like that caused friction between the band members as most split just 4 years after their breakthrough to the mainstream. Most of you watching this video know the album like the back of your hand, as do I, and it's either a hit or a giant miss for most music fans. I'm of the belief that Panic's debut album holds up better than it has any right to, slamming home the melodies on Camisado, turning up the vaudeville sass with There's a Good Reason, and evoking all the nostalgia with I Write Sins, Not Tragedy, which is still a masterful and witty gem despite being very, very overplayed. Now that we've pinned down Fever at number 2, let's see what strange beast has made its way to the pinnacle, to the top of the top, to the throne.
Clouds are marching along, singing a song, just like they do. If the clouds were singing a song, I'd sing along, wouldn't you too?
When you were a kid, do you ever remember your parents promising you maybe your favorite meal for dinner, and then when dinner time rolls around, they pull the old bait and switch? You take a bite thinking maybe, oh, this is a cheeseburger, but it turns out that bite is actually 9 in the afternoon. Ooh, that was good, you think to yourself. I thought I wanted Fever Part 2, but this sound is fun. I at least personally can relate to that analogy, having waited years for one of my favorite bands to follow up their beloved debut. Even though it was vastly different, I couldn't help but be amazed, even as a 16-year-old, at the sheer beauty of the music and the masterful execution of the Beatles and 60s-esque soundscape. How many modern bands can you name that went double platinum on their first outing and then followed it up by essentially doing the opposite of what was popular at the time? Not many, that's for sure. A bold turn of events isn't what makes Pretty Odd amazing though. It's pretty perfect in and of itself. Okay, that was really lame. I'm sorry. Pretty Odd is an escape from the reality we all know, an alternate dimension where the sunlight paints a picture of a young band locked away in a forest, writing timeless songs for the real world to hear. Yuri and Ross trade vocal duties more often on this one, setting themselves up for blissful harmonies and beautifully thought out writing. Listen to selections such as She Had the World, Pas de Cheval, or even Northern Downpour to get a taste for the gracefully composed tracks that feature a vast array of organic instruments. Ross takes the lead on the now classic Behind the Sea, along with the majority of the also ocean-inspired She Had the World. The line, I don't love you, I'm just passing the time, sung by Ross over backing string arrangements, really stands out as brutally honest and clever, and is one of the best lyrics on Pretty Odd. Cellos, pianos, and horns flare up on the happy When the Day Met the Night, tears fall on the crisp fan favorite Northern Downpour, and a feeling of serenity overwhelms on Do You Know What I'm Seeing? Let's not sleep on the stunning single That Green Gentleman either. It's one of the best damn songs of the 2000s and leaves the listener with a sense of optimism every single time. Once again, I send out the reminder that Pretty Odd either gets forgotten entirely or is remembered incorrectly and judged unfairly as a result. This is an album that dazzles, but also leaves you curious. It plants a seed in your mind that takes time to harvest, so go back and water it by revisiting the album and let yourself truly hear this overlooked masterpiece by a band that never again reached such great heights. That's it for this episode of Ranked. Thank you so much for tuning in. How would you rank the Panic at the Disco albums? Let me know what you thought of my list and also leave yours in the comments section down below. Don't forget to drop a like on the video while you're here and consider supporting me on Patreon to help hard videos like this keep coming each and every month. You can go directly to my Patreon and donate on a monthly basis by tapping this annotation in the corner, or you can catch up on my Panic at the Disco playlist featuring my ranked, top 10, and all of my reviews at this playlist link right here. Another video right over here that I recently made, in fact it's the last episode of Ranked, and all of my socials in the description. I'll see you soon for more right here on ARTV.